Hello, everyone. This is Dr. B from Steps to the Future coming to you with another live stream with my fabulous co hosts. Today, we're going to be talking to you about the benefits, the pitfalls, the challenges, and the valuable learning experiences that we all have had the opportunity to experience through our volunteering as leaders in the Independent Educational Consultants Association, and also in a variety of other organizations to which we give our time. So let me, without further ado, I'm going to bring on my co-host. I have a little cold. No, I have a big cold. It's not little. Um, so I may have to sometimes, go off screen as I have to go through all these sneezing fits that I've been having this weekend or something else. And I know my wonderful co hosts will definitely pick up the slack. So if you're out there watching, please make sure you join in the conversation because we'd love to hear from you. Um, and you know what to do. Just put your questions in the chat section. And for those of you that are watching this on replay, you can still participate in the discussion. So we look forward to hearing from you. So let me bring my co-hosts onto the screen and they will introduce themselves. Some of you may know them already, but it never hurts to make sure you know who you're talking to. So I'm going to ask you to introduce yourselves by the way you appear on my screen. So I am going to start off first with Rosellen.
Hi, my name is Rosellen McCombie. I am an IEC in Oviedo, Florida, which is right outside of Orlando. I enjoy working with college students who are college bound students who are interested in becoming a student athlete in college, or you are a homeschooler who's transferring into college. And that's about it. Happy to be here.
Okay, thank you. April, you're next.
So I'm April Paris Joseph. I am in Bellevue, Washington, outside Seattle. I also work with college bound students and particularly like those student athletes. They're fun, I think, to work with because it's a little bit of a different path. Um, I guess that's it. All other kinds of students. I'm in Tech Central, so I do tons of comp sci kids and engineers. And actually, I love a good artist every once in a while because they're just fun. They keep life interesting.
Okay, thank you, April. Angela, we'll go to you next.
Hello, everyone. Angela Bird. I'm coming to you from Gastonia, North Carolina, just outside of Charlotte. I too work with high school students going to college. Most of the students I work with apply to HBCUs, and I have been doing this for about almost 10 years. Amazingly enough, time flies when you are having fun.
That's great. Antoinette.
So, I'm Antoinette Batiste. I am coming to you from San Jose, California. I too work with high school students bound for college, also work with transfer students from community college to 4 year institutions. This is year number 15 for me. And I actually like to work with students that are interested in music. I'm a band mom at heart.
Oh, that's great. And for those of you who don't know me, I am Belinda Wilkerson. I too work primarily with students that are college bound. I particularly like to talk with students about their career pathways, but more in the line of what type of problems are they looking to solve, what types of things out there in the world concern them, rather than just talking about what do you want to major in. That's one of those questions that often makes young folks pretty nervous unless they've had some time to do a lot of self-reflection, a lot of experiential education, and what have you. A lot of times they don't know. All of us know adults who are still trying to figure out what they want to be when they grow up. So asking that of 16, 17, 18-year olds is sometimes asking a lot. So with that being said, tonight's talk is about leadership. But first, all of us had the wonderful pleasure of attending the Independent Educational Consultants Association's conference in Connecticut. So before we start talking about leadership, anybody have any major takeaways from the conference? What was your favorite workshop? What part event did you enjoy the most? So, anyone that would like to go first?
I was so excited to see the induction of our new president, who is Dr. B. She is the IECA president, and to be there and a part of that moment was really, really, really exciting. So it may be once in a lifetime, and I'm happy that I was there to see it.
Thank you for those kind words. I appreciate that. I, on the other hand, was a little nervous, but I'm here for the challenge. Someone else.
For me, it
Okay.
was the session that had to do with students that come to you and they want to major in computer science, and how the presenters were able to break it down, and it allowed me to use their, I would say, easier wording, not so high tech, not so you have to have all of these computer sort resources. Let's start at this bottom level and figure out where you fit in. And it might not be computer science, it might be computer science adjacent, and you would still survive and thrive and do well. And there are tons of careers out there. So it was a very eye-opening session for me.
Okay, thank you. I'll have to see if the handouts are available for that session because it sounds really interesting. That's one of the things about going to conferences. As much as we love them and there are wonderful workshops, there's always something that, oh my God, I want to go see all of these. And you can't. You can only be in one place at one time. So again, hearing about this from Angela, thank you for that because I didn't know that, that was that was what that one was about. I knew it was about computer science, but hearing that side of it really makes me want to go back and see if we have the handouts for that. Thank you. Next.
My sentiments exactly. I know that
Yes.
that is one of the sessions that I was torn about going to, and I did not go to that one. So Angela, I'll be looking for the handouts and having conversation with you, which is also one of the fun parts about the conference is that being able to exchange information with colleagues because we can't go to all of them and getting the kind of the notes between the bullet points on the PowerPoints from someone who's attended. That is really helpful too. So
Thank you.
So I'm going to be a little, you guys know I'm always a little naughty, but I'm going to say my
That's
favorite
okay.
part of the conference was the party. The Antoinette is on the board for the foundation, for the ICA Foundation. So every year she kind of encourages us all to go. But it was great just to be together outside of being just who we are as professionals and just enjoy each other as people for a while. I really like that a lot. Um, but then also in terms of the professional development side of things, I really enjoyed two things. One, the workshops on how we run our businesses, because that's not where I'm naturally strong. I'm naturally strong with the kids and the education side of things and the essays and that stuff. But we are a business, and so it was good to hear like different ways to do that and keep it out of the way, so we don't get tied down doing what we don't want to do and stick more with the students, which is where we all want to be. Um, and then there was a cool one on athletics that really did a good job of breaking down why all these kids that think they got to be D1 bound have so many choices.
Yes. Yes. That's one of those areas that continue to confound a lot of people. So, like you, April, I did like the IECA Foundation event because Antoinette does insist that we show up. So we go in support, and then we have one of our youngest members of our group, Sydney, who always insists that we're going to get up and wobble. So it was actually a lot of fun because just like you said, April, we needed something to take off not so much tension, but we're so serious when we're going about our work at the conference, going to sessions, making sure we're networking, making sure we're doing other things. So it was a fun evening for a wonderful organization. So one of my sessions that I went to that I really enjoyed was one where we looked at case studies, and it was presented by Washington University in St. Louis. And oh my God, who was the other school? Why am I blanking on the other school? I will think of it
Was
sometime.
it Rochester?
No, it wasn't Rochester. Washington University of St. Louis. I don't know. I'll look it up before it's over. But what they did is they each one of the schools gave us 2 to 3 students and with their profile, and we had to decide whether that student was admitted, not accepted, or waitlisted. And after we went through the exercise, it was so interesting to hear the admissions officer's reasons for why the decision that was made happened.
Hmm.
It just gave you a lot of food for thought. Um, so I'm always, curious because you know how we always have students who are so upset because they didn't get the decision that they wanted. And we talk about institutional priorities, we talk about other things, but they don't necessarily understand that side of the business. So that was part of it where they talked about institutional priorities, but it was also interesting in seeing those little nuances that we wouldn't pick up on because we don't know what it is that particular college is looking for in their incoming class. So again, it was really interesting to be able to do that. And then it's just the networking is great because we only see each other in person at
Mhm.
conferences or on tours.
Yeah.
So yeah, when you think about it, I mean, as much as we talk and we're around each other in person, it's not that often. And I'm always amazed when I meet somebody new. And I'm like, oh, they're a lot taller than they look on screen. Oh, they're a lot shorter than they look on screen. And it always takes me aback when I see that. And, we have those conversations. But it is nice to see people off the little square box.
Mhm.
So, talking about leadership, one of the things for all of us, because we're all involved in different organizations, one of the things I know we talk to our students about is how are they a leader in their school, and that leadership doesn't always come with a title. So how do you show up in your school? So as professionals, one of the things we all have done is we have been volunteer leaders in multiple capacities. And I think it's good for students to understand that we're still doing this as adults, and maybe they could take some lessons from what we've learned over the years and also talk about why we do it because it is volunteer. So, would anyone like to start? Or am I on the hot seat first?
I'll take you off the hot seat for a minute.
Thank you.
Um, for me, um, it's particularly within IECA, um, ways in which I've been involved. I was elected to the nominating committee. I've been on the diversity, equity, inclusion, access committee, DEIA. I got to get all my letters right. I've also been a part of the Summer Training Institute faculty. And for me, what's motivated me to do that, to do those things, is um, kind of being at the table where the action happens. I'm very interested as a nonprofit leader for over 30 years. I'm always interested in kind of the governance piece in those folks who move into positions of leadership. So that's why it was important for me to run for nominating. For the DEIA committee, that is just a natural area of interest that I have. And then I guess the other thing was the big thing actually of which, when I look at these smiling faces here with my crew, is, Belinda, when you and I started the Black IEC Affinity Group, because when we joined IECA, 12 years ago, there were not a lot of folks within IECA who looked like us. And it was just, every time we go to conference, every time, we go on tours and things, and we just felt that it was really important to create a welcoming place for IECs who look like us, because it could be going to that first conference and it's like deer in the headlights.
Mm-hmm.
And so, creating that safe space, having a place where we can talk about, some unique issues and challenges that we face as Black IECs. But I think for me, it's always been trying to be part of the solution that I've seen. And the work for me with the IECA Foundation, which is the charitable arm of IECA, that is just, I mean, I just gravitate towards that. Again, that's just kind of where my heart is. But being able to be part of the organization in a leadership way, an organization that provides support, financial support to organizations that are providing opportunities for under-resourced youth. It's just something that's really important to me, and so it's been fun to do the work to work on grants and those kinds of things, but then to have the dance party too. So just able to provide a different perspective. And when I kind of looked at the board composition, and I'm like, when I think about the organizations that the foundation funds primarily, and I look at the board composition, I mean, there's a little bit of a mismatch. And so how can I be part of the solution? So I raise my hand, and it's just a natural extension of other work that I do. But I enjoy that because I think about when I came into the organization, and it's very different now. So
And what you said was so important for young people to hear because, a lot of times they may go into situations and they may be a minority of one, or they're not sure how to go about finding their people or to establish that network. So moving into situations where you raise your hand and say, let me help out on that committee, or let me see what I can do to make a difference is one way for them to eventually go through that leadership pipeline. So, who else would like to talk about their leadership journey? And some of you are at the beginning.
I'll share. Um, it's been really a wonderful experience for me within the organization. I'm probably the youngest member out of those who are on the screen today, but all of the colleagues that I'm surrounded with, these four fine young ladies, have all been supportive to me and encouraging, and it really comes from their heart, I can say, because volunteering is not what everyone does. Everybody doesn't raise their hand. Everyone is not interested in helping. But those who are here and others who are not on the screen have been very helpful. And so as I grow in my practice and have role models like you, it encourages me to become a part of the solution and fill the holes that are missing, and try and serve wherever I can. So, my volunteer experience so far has been with the Central Florida Regional Group, and we didn't have a group when I went to my first conference, and I was the deer in headlights for many reasons. And just try to start something here. And it has been very helpful in this area to have something that people can connect. It's not always fun, but it's been good overall. So if you think long and you think of the big picture, and if you think of ways that you can be part of that solution, then you too may consider volunteering.
And for those who aren't familiar with IECA and how we are structured, because we have members throughout the United States and in other countries, we have regional groups, and that's by geography. So we'll have a chair and a vice chair of the regional group, and what we do is there's programming. So it may be that your regional group may be hosting a visit or either in person or virtual with an admissions person from a school in your area or even outside of your area. You may be having a talk about a topic that's of interest. You may be comparing notes on a particular event or a particular strategy that you've been using with your students. But it's a way for us outside of conferences to meet with people in our area. I'm very fortunate here as part of the Raleigh Triangle Regional Group to have had some fantastic chair and vice chairs. Just recently, we had a person come in and talk to us about executive functioning, which was absolutely wonderful. I know it was funny because by the time she finished talking, I said, "Ooh, maybe I need to go talk to her for me," because I started to see a little bit of myself in some of the things that she was saying. But it's really good. I know one of the other things we do in our regional group, um, we keep a database of who is available, who's taking clients, so that we can refer within the group. And quite a few other things. Just recently, some members went on a tour of colleges together. Haven't been able to do those because I always have something else on my schedule when they're going to do the tours. But hopefully, I'll get to do one of them. But that's what regional groups are for the Independent Educational Consultants Association. So, Rosellen, thank you for getting that one started. Someone else who'd like to go next.
I'll go.
Okay.
I'm like, I see April trying to find her mute button. But volunteering wasn't exactly top of my list, to be honest with you. But in many a conversations with Antoinette, am I asking, why don't we do this? Why don't we do that? She was like, why don't you get involved? I'm like, okay, so I should. So I ended up volunteering for the college committee. And the reason for the colleges committee is because I wanted to help with the college fair. I wanted to make sure that we were outreaching to our HBCUs, which I was on the college committee for the past 2 years, and we've built up quite a database. We've every conference that we've held and had a college fair, all the regional schools that we reached out to, all the connections for people that did the outreach with their personal connections, we just continue to grow and grow and grow. And I can honestly say this last conference, I felt the best about our college fair because of the amount of outreach we were able to do. Still working on our HBCUs, haven't given up on them, but I also know that timing kind of plays into it and making sure that, it's beneficial for both parties. Um, but I am so glad we were able to at least get the date of our next conference out in front of everyone so that they would be able to participate as a, hey, don't forget about us, even though we're going down to just one conference a year. Maybe you can come to our next one. We're telling you almost a year in advance.
Right.
Please be able to come. But also, we decided to send thank you notes to all of the colleges and gap year companies that attended, just to as a personal note from the college fair committee. Um, and that kind of trickles up to the college committee itself, where we just let everybody know, colleges want to be involved. When they do come, they want to participate in different sessions. So it's kind of a twofer, so that us as consultants, we get to speak with the colleges and the representative just as our students do. But we also get to have them present to us and tell us more about their enrollment practices, their financial aid practices, any new majors that might be coming up. So it's a lot of sharing of data on both sides. And we get to, some of us get to, know the reps a little bit more personal than just an email that we might send or just a conversation via Zoom. So that's a roundabout way of how I ended up volunteering. I also do the education and training committee, which I will continue. So that I am still learning all that needs to be included in that. It definitely helps with the training that us as IECs will have going forward. So
Thank you for that. And that's important because again, if you're not familiar with IECA, we do have a strategic plan, and in that strategic plan, education and training is one of our major drivers. So having that college committee, having the education and training committee, is essential to the work we do because we're all about making sure that our members are professionally ready to go out in this world and meet with their students and just help their families. April.
So I will say that I started off kind of from a selfish perspective because I'll just be honest. I really wanted to make sure we had community. So one of my first volunteering roles within IECA was and still is to co-chair the Black Affinity group that you, Dr. B, and Antoinette founded some time ago, and I just really thought that that was important, just that we would have a place to get together, and even a place where I would say, as a newer IEC at the time, I could ask the dumb question and not feel judged and make sure that I'm serving my students well. Um, but what I realize is, and I want to see if I can frame this right, because I think it's really important for our high schoolers to realize, because a lot of times they're doing these jobs and they're trying to get these titles because they want to create a profile to get in somewhere.
Mhm.
And really, I'm just learning so much and getting so much out of it for myself as a human and myself as an IEC to interact with other smart people who are willing to share their knowledge and be supportive and encourage each other, and a space where we can deal with our frustrations and just really, point to, like, oh, there's going to be this other seminar over here, or I've talked to the rep and I learned this. And so I just get so much out of it, and it goes really nowhere in terms of career. Nobody is hiring me because I'm doing this volunteer work. And yet they don't know how much they're benefiting from the fact that I'm doing the volunteer work because it's helping me to develop. And what makes me want to be at conference, because I get to see people that I know. And then I go to the sessions and we swap knowledge of what we learned at the different sessions. And all that's because we're making human connection. And I
Yes.
think leadership leads to a lot of human connection. And as personally a natural introvert, um, I know you can laugh.
No, I'm
I'm a
laughing.
good mask. Listen, my sister went to NYU Tish. If you think I can't act, I've been acting. Had me in her shows since I was 3 years old. Um, this is it's a way to get myself out there to do that, because even natural introverts need human connection.
Yes.
Mhm.
Yes. I love what you just said about your volunteering is also for your own personal and professional growth. So I think that is fantastic because I don't think a lot of people think of it in that respect and understand how important it is. I know when I started in IECA along with Antoinette. We both are members of the class of 2012 for the Summer Training Institute. Who in the house? I will still argue with folks that we are the best STI class. Um, so I will not take any other words about that. Um,
2021.
eh, we'll see. We'll see. But anyway, I think the very first thing I did was I worked as I was a tour facilitator. We used to say bus moms. We don't say bus moms anymore. That
Mhm.
is not appropriate. We are tour facilitators, and that means when we're doing a college tours, someone has to maintain, the list of who's on the tour. They have to be in contact with whoever our rep is at the college, and making sure that we're on time and getting where we need to be. So that was one of my first volunteer positions at IECA. And then I'm trying to think, what else did I do? Just going on to different committees. So on the DEIA committee, diversity, equity, inclusion, and now accessibility. Actually, I think I was one of the first co-chairs when the board decided that was going to be a committee. And then along with Antoinette, we co-founded the Black IEC's affinity group. And for people who are saying, okay, what's the difference between a regional group and an affinity group? So the affinity group are people who have a common interest. So whether it's based on ethnicity, religion, we have people who have IECs who have small children. because that's a whole different thing to do this work and have
Mhm.
little little babies at home.
Mhm.
We have IECs who focus on homeschooling, so they have an affinity group. We have our LGBTQ um, affinity group, and many others. I think at last count, I know we were past 25 to 30 affinity groups. So having an affinity group is very important. Um, and then just went on. Then I was fortunate enough to be elected to the board back in, I want to say, 2016. I don't actually remember the date, but I think that's what it when it was, and spent some time on the board, and also. As a board member, you also are part of one of the committees of the board. So I was on the ethics committee, and then the following 2 years, I became the VP for ethics, which in itself is very interesting. So, for people who don't know, just like other professions, we have guiding principles to help us do our work. So, we have our principles of good practice, where it's used as a guide in how we conduct ourselves in our business, with our families, with our colleagues, and with other affiliated groups. And that's ever changing, trying to keep up with what's going on in the world as we know it today. Um, and then this year, I got kind of called back and asked to if I would let myself be nominated to be president of IECA. And I have to tell you, when Christina Dooley called and asked, I'm like, yeah, right, Christina, you must have the wrong person here. Why are you doing this to me? And then when I say, Christina, how long do I have to decide? She said, oh, you only have 10 days. I'm like, oh, okay. So I think I called her the ninth day. I was trying to get all my time in there, and after talking, well, I should even say I was going to say after talking with my husband. I didn't really talk with my husband. I just kind of told him I was going to do it, and he knew that because he said, why do you ask me these things? You're going to do what you want anyway.
Mhm.
Um, so decided to hop on and become the president of IECA because I love the organization. I love the work we do. I love how the organization has evolved since the time that Antoinette and I became members. It really has changed for the better. And it's always looking to find ways to make things better um, for our members, to bring value to our members so that they can then do the work that needs to be done for their students and their families. Um, so for me, that's a 4 year commitment. It's two years as president, 1 year as past president, and another year as chair of the nominating committee. So yeah, it's a bit of time, and like April said, you learn for each one of those um, volunteer positions, the amount of knowledge that you learn, the new skills that you develop are amazing. And yes, it's volunteer. No, we don't get paid for it, but we get paid for it. Our payback is our skill development, our
Mhm.
professional knowledge as it increases, the networks that we now have that we didn't have 5, 6, 7, 8 years ago. Um, so it's really, for me, it's always been important to volunteer, not just in IECA, but with other organizations to which I've belonged. I've always, when I used to belong to the Rhode Island Geography Education Alliance, I volunteered to be one of the teacher trainers to help people learn how to infuse geography into their coursework, into their classes. I was when I was a high school counselor, I was a member of the Rhode Island School Counselor Association. Served on the board there, was president at one time, and then just continued in that role because as Antoinette encouraged Angela, when you see something that you want done, instead of waiting for someone else to do it,
Mhm.
jump
Okay.
in. And sometimes you have to like take a leap of faith. Sometimes it's really taking a leap of faith because you're like, I don't know what this is going to bring. I don't know what the outcome is going to be, but I know I'm here for the duration for whatever needs to be done. So what else would people like to say about leadership and jumping in with both feet?
Well, one of the other areas that no one mentioned that they done, and all of us have done it, but I particularly want to point out Rosella and April and Angela, since we're kind of old heads, Belinda, and that is presentations, presenting at conferences, even during COVID. I mean, I remember that Angela and another person from one of my STI cohorts, presented on HBCUs, and Angela's like, "What are you doing to me?" I mean, she was it was like right after she had attended Summer Training Institute, and then Rosellen, and I had an opportunity to present with another one of our colleagues, Jennifer, and an outside educator in Florida. And I mean, that's all to me leadership as well, because those are making very valuable contributions to the organization. April has presented multiple times as well in her area of specialty around athletics. And so that is also a great way to um, for the introverts, because I think all of us will kind of claim that introverted side a little bit. Somehow it shows up differently for all of us, but um, it's a way of stretching ourselves, really. And it's like, I remember like the technology part of recording that session. It was like, Angela, you got that, because I don't know how to do that part, and so I mean, just but it's again, it's ways and knowing yourself. I mean, and just like we tell our students to do a lot of self-reflection
Mhm.
and encourage them to bring their whole selves, all of their gifts and talents. And sometimes we just know, okay, that is not my strength. And Belinda knows this all the time. I get tools, I don't use them. And she gets on my case about them. And she's very gracious to, to explain some things to me. But I mean, just having those places and spaces and growing, and each time it does get a little bit easier. But it's important to be present. I mean, and
Mhm.
it's important to be seen. And I don't mean that from an egotistical standpoint, but I mean from, um, we need to let our own lights shine within an organization. And if people, and I remember being on the nominating committee, and it's like, feeling like on the outside looking in, it's like, well, it seems like the same kind of folks, the same names you hear about all the time, but it's there are other ways to gain exposure, so that people know your expertise, they know your work ethic, they know that you can be counted on. And I think that's the same thing that that the message that we give to the students that we work with. And I think one of the things that we've all talked about is being tapping into areas of interest, areas of, I hate the word passion, but those things that are, that are very meaningful to us, because we all work with students that are, yeah, checking the box and trying to, to build that portfolio. And rather, and kids feeling like they've got to do all these things, they've got to check all these boxes, and athletics and theater and music and this and that and everything else, and they lose themselves in the process. And so being able to model behavior of being involved and engaged deeply and meaningfully, I think is important to our students too. I think that's another value add, that they get to see us doing the things and furthering our knowledge and our connections in ways. So,
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. I know when my students either have a leadership position or they're thinking about it, that's a topic of conversation whenever we have a meeting. Okay, so you're leading the student council, or you're a member of the student council. How are you showing up at those meetings, or are you just going to the meeting to say that you were part of student council? So we have lots of conversations about that because, like several people said, students have so much going on. Sometimes it's a checklist, and we really want them to understand that, you know what, you're in this world, you're a part of this world. So if you're going to be here, if you're going to do it, let's do it right. Let's get in there and make sure that we're making a difference in some kind of way. You don't want to be, yeah, she just came and sat in the chair over there or signed her name onto the attendance sheet, and that was it. Like, what else were you doing? What did you bring to the table?
I think part of it again goes back to like, where are you choosing to do your giving?
Yes.
Where are you choosing? So, for us at this stage in life, it's where are we choosing to volunteer? For the student, it's what activity are you choosing to be involved with? Because if you actually have an interest, I'll use the word passion too, Antoinette. I'm so done with that word too. But if you have it in this area, then you're going to get something out of it. And it's just like the student who's doing robotics who really is an artist.
Mm.
And you're just like, it's painful talking to this child about their robotics, but robotics is going to take you in engineering, and engineering is going to make you money. And you could draw for Pixar. Okay. Like
Mm.
there is stuff to do in art that will be very prolific, and you'll lead a lovely life. um and trying to get them to understand, like, what are you choosing and why. So yes, I put on my boots and I went and I did the presentation. I did it about athletics. I did it about an area where I felt, you know, connected, and I really care about the students and what they go through in that process. Um, and while I have a lot of comp sci kids and I love them and I can help them well, I'm not super excited about data science versus mechanical versus chemical engineering to do a presentation about it. Like, I know it,
Yes.
Mm.
but I'm excited to talk about, like, helping kids navigate the social emotional side of being a recruitable athlete. So that's where I put my energy, and that's where it came back to me in a positive way. And I think the same thing is true for the kids. If they'll put their energy where they really have a passion, it will come back to them. And then when you have the meeting, they're not just checking a box. And as we all know, this is the crossover. Checking the boxes shows up on the application. We can tell, and if we can
Mm.
tell, admissions.
Yeah. And that's even with students who have jobs. Oftentimes, they may not see themselves as a leader or understand that how they show up at work is a sign of leadership. I know one of my students, when we were talking, she was pleasantly surprised that she had been promoted to be shift manager for someone her age. And so we talked about it. I said, well, tell me what you do at work. Tell me about what it looks like when you're at work. And she talked about being on time. She talked about how she had to learn how to really be patient with elderly people, because a lot of fast food places now have the kiosks where you go in and you order your food on there. And
Mm.
for people like my husband, who is technologically illiterate, it can be difficult for them. Yes, he knows. I talk about him all the time. Um, he's just not good with technology. And she talked about how she took her time going over to help someone when she saw that they were having a difficult time. And she also talked about how she was able to transition from being a peer worker to now the supervisor. And so, well, that's one of the things we would do every meeting. So, tell me about something new that you learned about yourself at work today, whether it's a new skill you learned, whether it's a way you behave with people, or what have you. And that actually helped when she had to write some of her supplemental essays. We were able to tap into that. And kids don't get that deep sometime into their jobs. It's like, it's a job, I'm going to work, getting a paycheck. Okay, but let's talk about all those little nuances. We know what it's like because when we just think about the work that we do as solo practitioners, how many different hats we wear, how much we're always learning something new and how to do something, or finding someone that can teach us how to do something, how to ask for help. So those are all things that we've learned in our business that young folks are learning in their different environments, but they don't always recognize it as such.
Yeah, I know I'm always having conversations with students. It's like, let's just put it all out there, right? Of all the things, and then let's, kind of distill it. Let's look for some commonalities. Let's look for any kind of common threads. Do you see that you gravitate towards this kind of a thing? And it's all part of helping them get to know themselves and really kind of embrace that. And then I think it also, the perspective as you described and getting them to talk about it, Belinda, it also helps them to just realize, oh, I didn't know I was getting that, or I didn't know that that's considered leadership, or I didn't know that that was something that meant a lot to me. And it's always kind of fun to get them to talk about those things, and I think that also as independent educational consultants, we have more time to do that with students, to really kind of help them
Mm.
navigate that and learn themselves. And I think that is a big differentiator, that, or a value add, I should say. Not that school counselors are not capable, they just often don't have the bandwidth, and that is something that I think that we can do, um, as IECs. And it's always, to me, it's always fun to just watch the light come on, just
Mm.
like, oh, when they, that moment when they realize, oh, that's what I've been doing, or that's what it's called, or wow, I didn't realize that helping people was, just kind of shows up consistently in the things that I do.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and so that's all fun stuff that we get to do.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And I know even with me outside of IECA, my volunteer life gets pretty full. Those that know me know I love everything about books, love libraries. I actually, when I was home in Rhode Island and we toured URI in Salve Regina, the next day I was able to visit the renovated Providence Public Library downtown. I hadn't been there since they renovated it, and it was absolutely amazing. I go in a library and I just like geek out. And my oldest son was with me, and he gets a little geeky with me when we're looking at libraries. I think the people thought we were like, what is wrong with these people taking pictures of everything in the library? But it was just amazing because I think of that library when he was young and what it's evolved to today with this major renovation that they just did. And I'm always pushing folks, when folks tell me, about not liking to read or can't afford books. I'm like, look, you have a public library. All you need is a library card. There is no excuse. And
Mm-hmm.
libraries are so much more than just the books. So getting people. So again, I'm passionate about volunteering with our library. I'm currently on the Friends of the Library, where we're the fundraising arm for our public library. So we put on teen programs, adult programs, toddler programs, and what have you, and then also provide money to the librarians for special programming that they'd like to do. So there's so much that we can do. I'm part of the North Carolina Career Development Association, because whether you go to a 4-year school, a 2-year school, the military, or whatever, you're all going to work. So you need to know what that looks like. So that's important to me. So I would hear, well, I'm going to go to college. Yeah, but what are you going to do when you get out of college? You still got to
Mm-hmm.
go to work. You're
Mm-hmm.
not living in your parents' basement. You have to get up and go to work. And there's certain skill sets that go along with going to work, regardless of your education level. We typically would call them soft skills, but they're not. Those are crucial, essential skills that everyone needs to have. So I'm not going to get on my soapbox about career development, because I can go on and on about that forever and ever. Um, but it is important. But I'm hoping that parents that are watching this, students that are watching this, whether live or on the replay, you're getting some ideas and some tips and strategies about how you could go about um, participating in leadership, or what you can do to lead up to leadership. As I said, every leadership position doesn't necessarily come with a title. It's how you work within that group or that organization. There's so many opportunities for situational leadership. How do you show up in a particular event when whoever was supposed to be leading isn't there? How do you make it work? How do you make people feel welcome into a new group, or a new environment? So again, it's really important that folks think about that you understand that volunteering does not stop. It's kind of like forever. Um, Last month was Volunteer Appreciation Month, and IECA has been really wonderful about recognizing its volunteers. Even at the conference, we had a volunteer appreciation reception, and I want to say there were over 200 people that were recognized at the conference. So that's, and we have more than 200 volunteers, believe me. But 200 that were at the conference, a little over 200, were recognized for the work that they've been doing. And that's been really good. And that's something that has evolved over time with recognizing volunteers, because a lot of these organizations would not be able to do what they do without their volunteers. It just wouldn't happen.
Hmm.
Other comments, concerns before I switch over to the book I think everyone should read?
I do want to say that I appreciate IECA for having the volunteer. Um, I call it a party because it is kind of fun. Little couple of hours to just eat some dessert and not think about going to a session and just hanging out for a little bit. But the fact that they invite you and they recognize you, and then even while we're there, even more awards are given out to people to show that have showcased even more of their talent through their volunteering. Just to see that support from the association, it's it speaks a lot, and I think it encourages people to continue to volunteer, because
Mhm.
I have also reached out to those other consultants that are like, hey, you want to do something, we should volunteer, you should volunteer for a subcommittee, raise your hand for
Right.
something. And
Mhm.
I think it's finally working. So I am planting the seeds, as people say, to pass it on. I am passing it along, encouraging others to volunteer and, help IECA be as good as it possibly can be. And it starts with us. I mean, we are the association. So we want to make it better. We have to volunteer to make it better.
Here, here, I agree with that.
Yeah.
I'm so glad that you don't feel like you were coerced. Just
Now, for my
strongly encouraged.
presentation, I was. I didn't know anything. I was green, but I appreciate, like April said, it was on a topic that is near and dear to my heart, HBCUs. So it was an easy yes. And it was virtual, so I didn't have to stand up in front of everybody.
Oh,
Yes.
you got a
For those
bonus.
that don't know, for those that don't know Antoinette, she has this really I won't call it gentle, direct way
Yes.
of
Right.
letting us know when it's time to step up and get to work. And
Mhm.
it's
Yes.
effective
Mhm.
while not
Mhm.
always uh, relished, but it's effective.
You were being so politically correct, but
I
it's
will.
interesting because I met someone on the tour afterwards who said, I'm a friend of April's, and I know you're a friend of April's. And we had an activity on Monday, but April said she couldn't go because you told her she had to go to the foundation event. It's like, okay, that's a great way to meet people, right? So it's this bully, right?
No, I said, I'm going to be there to support. This is an event you're very deeply involved, and I'm not going to not show up.
Mhm.
That's not right.
And I
That's part of the
appreciate it.
community, right?
Yes,
Yes,
Yeah.
we
I
show up for
absolutely
definitely.
each
appreciate
other.
it.
We
But
definitely show up.
Belinda and I did part of our crew from Summer Training Institute 2012. We actually did a session once on, kind
Mm.
of STI and, kind of what happens after that. But the idea, and my words to folks when they come into the organization, when they come into this work, is find your people, because
Mhm.
there, I mean, you come in and you're drinking out of a fire hose. There's so much information. You will never know it all.
Mhm.
And I would say, as women, um, we tend to go into this kind of imposter syndrome, or doubt ourselves, or doubt our knowledge. And can I dot every single I and cross every single T before I launch my business or before I start working with students? And that utopia is just not going to exist. But finding your people where you can have those places to ask those, April, you referred to it earlier, kind of the dumb questions or things that you should know. I mean, I'm 15 years in, and I had that early, a few months ago, reached out to someone and asked for help, got their help. It was wonderful. It was right on time. And it sent me into this whole mode of imposter syndrome, feeling like I should have known that. But then after having conversation with my colleague, and she's like, yeah, well, see, you're really good at asking the questions, what are you grateful for? What do you want? Kind of that. She said, I'm more, kind of, she said, the parts that you do, I can't do. And and again, it's just, the community, just knowing who you go to for the different things and feeling comfortable going, not, it's not that you're trying to be lazy or anything as a consultant, but it's like you're going to experts to learn. And we all take what we do so seriously because we're impacting, the lives of young people, then, and we want to get it right. And so knowing when we need to hand off or get that second opinion, or can you take a look at this? I mean, that's part of the learning. That's part of growing as leaders as well.
Exactly, exactly. That is so true. So, for those of you that are joining in or watching this on the replay, let me make sure you know who is here in the room. We have Rosellen here with us from Florida. We have April here with us from the state of Washington. We have Angela from the state of North Carolina, not too far from me. And we have Antoinette from California. And it's important to know that if you are interested in working with an independent educational consultant, if you're interested in working with one of us, you can find all of our contact information at iecaonline.com. And we all are on social media, so you can definitely follow us on social media. Um, because again, our work is to help students in any capacity that we can. With that being said, I'd like to just quickly go to the book that I would like to highlight for this month. And the book is called Up Home, One Girl's Journey by Ruth J. Simmons. And Dr. Simmons was, or still is, the first Black president of an Ivy League school. She was the president of Brown University for a number of years, and her story is really interesting. I've been in the habit lately of reading memoirs and autobiographies because I'm really interested in people's lives, because a lot of times we don't see the journey, we just see the end result. So I'm really interested in what the journey was. And in Dr. Simmons' book, she talks about she was the 12th child in a family of 12 children, born to parents who were sharecroppers in Texas. And she talked about how what where she ended up in life, or her journey through life, was such an improbability. As a young child, it wasn't something that she saw in herself, recognized in herself, but people along the way made sure that she had what she needed. Her parents were very supportive of her doing the work that she does. She recently retired from Prairie View A&M as the president, and but is still working in education. She's one of those people who's going to continue. But I think it's important for young folks to do more reading too, um, and read about people, see what people's lives are like. There was just an article in the Chronicle of Higher Ed talking about the lack of reading skills, the lack of reading that people are doing in general. And not only is it showing up in K through 12, but it's showing up at the college level. Professors are talking about, people don't want to read. They don't do the reading assignments. They don't do in-depth reading assignments, and it shows up in the work. So parents, if you want any tip on what you can do to help your child prepare for a post-secondary education, have them read. Go to your library. I mean, there do that. You need to read. You learn so much from reading. Learn so much from reading. So, any final words as we near our hour of conversation?
I hope everybody realizes the value of volunteering. It's so beneficial for your group and for you professionally, personally. Get out there, get active, get involved. You can make a difference.
Yes, thank you, Rosella. Anyone else? One of my favorite quotes is from Marian Wright Endelman, where she says, "Service is the rent we pay for being." And that's what we're all doing. We're all in service in the work that we're doing with IECA and with other organizations. So, we'd like to thank all of you out there for joining us this evening. We really appreciate your time, whether you were here live or whether you are watching this on the replay. And remember, you can always reach out to us. And if you do want to share this replay with others, you can subscribe to my YouTube channel and you can see this recording and also past recordings that we have done on various subjects. Two of our members could not be here today, so I just want to shout out Lisa Thomas and Amy Jasper, who are both leaders. Lisa is the co-chair of the Black IEC's affinity group along with April, and Amy just rolled off the board for IECA, was also the VP of Education and Training, and was also a member of the DEIA committee, and a definitely, and a member of the Black IEC's affinity group. So they were out doing their work, so they weren't with us this evening, but I did want to make sure that we'll let you know that they're also crucial volunteers to the organization. So, with that being said, thank you everyone for being with us this evening. Thank you for watching the replay. And if you have any questions or would like to reach out to either one of us, you can find our contact information on iecaonline.com, or just send a comment, send an email, or what have you, and I'll make sure you get that information. So, take care, everyone. And ladies, I will see you live next month. So, take care.
Bye.